Hey guys, Coach Dan here. Friday workout, stiff-legged deadlifts, here we go. So last week I finally got 185 for 10, and that's been a goal of mine for a while, so now I'm going to try 190. Cool thing about being as anal as I am about logging my weights and my progress and stuff like that, I know my previous record is 190 times 6, but I also think in that time that I hit that 190 times 6, I wasn't so good with my technique. So my technique's improved, and I'm back to 190 kgs, and that's therefore hard to gauge progress. But anyway, if I can get, with this improved technique, more than 6 reps today, I know I am doing better than I've ever done before in that movement, which is pretty sweet to say. I think the other thing I wanted to shout out was that, just to reiterate the message from yesterday as far as consistency goes, so the importance of consistency can't be understated. Like, the perfect program done inconsistently is nothing compared to an average program done really consistently. It is hard with lots of information out there. What's the best diet? What's the best training plan? What's the best exercise? Blah, 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 blah. And people want to bang on about that a lot. But if you're not consistent, it doesn't matter if it is the best. It doesn't matter if it's average. It doesn't matter if it's poor. Like, we just have to keep being consistent and consistent with our effort, and just basically keep going. You can always sort of plug in better stuff over time, but if you're not rocking up at all, you're really no hope at all, basically. So just echoing that message, the importance of consistency. And it is hard, like right now where we are, it's cold, and I'm doing some strength and conditioning at a local school. You get there in the morning, and compared to when it was warmer, now colder, there's less kids, all that kind of stuff. So it's not, it's across all age groups. It's most people. It just adds an extra layer of hardness to it. So it's like, okay, if it is already really difficult, how do we do it? And my usual suggestion to clients is you make it as easy as possible. So if it's like, I want to go to the gym 5 days per week, but you don't, it's like, well, go 2 and be consistent with that. If getting up in the morning is the hardest part, try and make that the easiest part. Clothes ready, bag ready, a warm jumper on when you go to sleep, so when you get up, it's not that sort of bitter coldness hitting you. So, everything we can do to be consistent is paramount. You then go, once you can do that for a long enough period of time, it becomes habitual. Once it's habitual, it doesn't take effort anymore. So people will be asking you, or like, how do you do that? That's so much hard work. And you'd be like, oh, it actually doesn't feel like hard work anymore. This is just what I do. And when we can get there, it's solid. You're flying high. You can do that forever. And that's not just surrounding weight training, as my vehicle is. I really love weight training, but that could be running. That could be any other kind of activity you like. Like, it's really up to you. Anyway, stiff-legged deadlifts. Let's get focused in for that. Let's get a bit fired up for that. We get 190 on there. We try and beat our old personal record. It'll be a great accomplishment. I'd be very proud of that. And then we got some brutal stuff after that. So rear foot elevated, split squats, leg press, all the good stuff. She's all coming here. Stay tuned. Okay, we are in the warm-up process for the stiff-legged deadlift. So I think one thing to keep in mind for the deadlift is its fatigue cost. So it's very tiring. And I've found that the stronger that you get at it, even though you are stronger, it's still very tiring. So you think relatively, you're getting stronger, so it won't have that larger effect. It's like, no, it still continues to be very fatiguing, and even more so as the weights get heavier. And if your goals don't necessarily surround doing this lift, you don't absolutely have to do it. My justification or rationale for doing it is because it feels effective to me. I quite enjoy it. And yeah, I found it fun to try and progress it as a strength movement as well. But there is a certain stage that I'm getting to where I do this for 3 sets to begin the workout, and then the rest, like a lot of the rest of the workout, is pretty tough to do because of the fatigue that kind of leaks out of doing this. So that hasn't always been the case. It's always tough, but more recently it's really sapping me. So there's potential to kind of substitute this exercise. I've got something in mind that I might put here in the future that gives me equal stimulus to the muscles that I want to train, doesn't kill me as much, and I can do that for a couple of months and then add this back in later. So just some considerations. You don't have to do the most tiring thing. If there is something that's more effective that gives you less fatigue, that is almost the smartest option, right? Anyway, for the stiff-legged deadlift, I set up feet shoulder width apart. I've got my straps here to avoid any grip issues. So when I do the stiff-legged deadlift, I'm trying to bias this towards the hamstrings, and glutes are going to be there for sure as well. But for me, I'm categorizing it as a hamstring exercise. So when I do that, or how I do that, should I say, is I set my hips nice and high. I get this really deep hamstring stretch. So I'm already in a stretch position before the movement starts. Obviously, this significant hip flexion means that hamstrings will work a lot, also means glutes work a lot, but the fact that my knee's straight as well means my hamstrings are further stretched. Bar nice and close, big breath, brace yourself, and stand. So building up to 190 today means I'll take, 3, 4, 5 sets to kind of be ready for 190. And then when I get there, be able to put good intensity and smash it out. So just another recap on that technique. Hips nice and high. I feel this hamstring stretch. We only can go as low as we can keep a neutral spine. So if your back starts to round because you can't get all the way down, it's probably best to go through a shorter range of motion. All right, let's see how we go. 190 kgs, see you there. Come on, come on, come on. All right, stiff-legged deadlift done. So, yeah, I think the thing to keep in mind for that is that if you want to build your deadlift up, yeah, one of the most effective ways to build the deadlift up is to practice deadlift and variations of, because there is a principle of specificity. When you practice something, you get better at that thing. So the opposite of that would go, I want to build my deadlift up, so I'm going to go do some running. But yeah, maybe some of the same muscles work, but it's not very specific at all. So there's that principle of specificity. However, my goal is not necessarily to get better at the deadlift. It's something that I've enjoyed and it's fun. My main goal is muscle growth. So with that in mind, I can choose any exercise I want, essentially, that best stimulates muscle growth. And there's a concept called stimulus to fatigue ratio that the Renaissance periodization team have kind of, or Dr. Mike Israetel kind of sort of coined, it would appear. And that's essentially that you want to get the most amount of stimulus to the least amount of fatigue as possible. Now, no fatigue is probably not possible at this stage. You can't just get a stimulus for muscle growth from doing nothing, but you want to choose things that bring fatigue down or keep fatigue as low as possible. So if you're doing an exercise, you want it to stimulate the muscle that you're trying to train as much as possible for growth with using as little fatigue as possible. So when it comes to a deadlift or a stiff-legged deadlift, that potentially is the most fatiguing exercise, but potentially also a lot of trade-off as far as stimulus goes. But I've sort of gotten to a point where the fatigue is so high that it's kind of like just destroying lots of other stuff. So I get to the the other exercises of the workout and I'm absolutely hammered and stuff like that. And that might be a fatigue management issue overall, that I'm just sort of not allowing fatigue to come down, not doing these other things. But nonetheless, it might be potentially worthwhile taking that out of the program for a couple of months, doing something else, maybe machine-based, let that fatigue come down and then bring it back in later. But again, same idea is that, if I had to choose, I do that because I like the exercise, and I think there is importance to that. When you like it, it's fun, and you push hard, that's a good thing. But yeah, is it worth the trade-off? For right now, it seems that it's not. But again, like a couple months in the future, when I'm feeling fresh and everything's, you know, fresh, I could bring it in for another couple of months, and maybe that's how I'll cycle it, because I do love it. It's one of my favorites. So anyway, all that said and done, we move from the stiff-legged deadlift to the rear foot elevated split squat. Speaking of fatigue, this is pretty tough. We only do 2 sets here though, but the loads are getting up there for me. So I do this little setup where we've got this roller here for the back foot to be on. It goes as high as possible, and that will make sense why in a second here. I got that bench out in front because I'm going to put my dumbbells on that bench in a second. So I'll plonk my foot, get it ready. It's a nice long stance. If I had dumbbells, they would be here. Back foot goes on, dumbbells come off, and we're down into the split squat like such. So you can see that for me, I want to make this as glute biased as possible. So what that means is I essentially want to get a big stretch through my glute, and that means full hip flexion. So full hip flexion would be essentially knee to the chest or chest to the knee. Now I can't really take my knee any further past that, or my leg further past that, should I say. So that's full hip flexion for me, and that will get us a nice big glute stretch and hopefully a big glute stimulus. And well, not hopefully, this really fucks my glutes up. So I know this is one of my favorites of all time. The other thing that you'll notice about that is, yeah, a big lean forward, chest gets to the knee. The knee only ends up about 90 degrees, meaning there's not as much stretch in the quad. So this is glute dominant with a little bit of quad. So I kind of, if we're using fractional sets, which is another way of counting growth, this is 1 towards my ass and only half towards my quads, if you count things that way. All right, let's build up our weight. Maybe a warm-up set or a practice set, just so I don't have to go straight to the heavy weights, and then we're on. Let's get it. Okay, we are building up for our leg press now. So we go 3 sets on this leg press. Now, we're trying to make this leg press as quad dominant as possible, so our technique will be such that we're trying to expose the quads mainly, but you'll get things like glutes involved, probably adductors. A lot of the lower body muscles will work here, but we want to bias it towards the quads. So for me, what that means is usually a lot of knee flexion, feet low on the platform to make it as hard to extend the knee as possible. And I'll show you what that looks like for me in my foot position. So for me personally, I'll go pretty low on the platform. I'll go toes out slightly. And then that's kind of where I stay. Pretty narrow stance I quite like. I've always liked that. I felt pretty strong doing things with narrow stance, such as squats and leg presses like this. Weight goes up, control the descent, a whole bunch of knee flexion, and try and feel the quads on the press. Now, a good thing about this one compared to the other 2 movements we've just done is there's no axial or spinal loading. So as far as stimulus to fatigue that we discussed before, this rakes up there. I get off of this, my quads feel fucked, but you know, my back's not tired. I'm not terribly out of breath like deadlifts or anything like that. So yeah, quick note on that, or just to reiterate the stimulus to fatigue ratio. So when it comes to an exercise for muscle growth, a good way to think about good exercises and potentially not as good is they should stimulate what you want, so the muscle that you want for growth, and get as little fatigue out of that as possible. And what you get there is an exercise that smashes the muscle but doesn't fatigue the system overall. So what that looks like ongoing is you can do more of it, you can build up with it, you can last with it doing multiple weeks back to back. If something is so fatiguing
even if it has a really high stimulus, in a couple of weeks time you might need a break with it. And that's kind of where I feel with even those split squats, that's quite heavy for me, so that's 45 kgs per head. Picking that up and holding that, like as bitch as that might sound, is tiring. And could I find something that's glutey or even more stimulus to the glutes without that fatigue? I don't know. I think as far as like raw stimulus, which is another term, that is probably the best, but fatigue is huge. So maybe I can just sub it out for a couple of months as well, bring it back in later when fatigue has come down, do something that's less fatiguing overall, like a hip thrust or something like that, that still smashes the glutes but doesn't fatigue the system or whatever it might be. All right, we've got some decisions to make, but you will next see me fucking this leg press up. Yes. Yes. Yay. Come on, you fucking pussies. Let's go. Come on, you fucking hungry. You fucking come. Fucking bitches. Come on. Okay, she's all downhill from here. So I've gone stiff-legged deadlift. That was mainly towards targeting the hamstrings, but the glutes for sure work there as well. Then I've gone rear foot elevated split squat over here. That was glutes, but quads work as well. Then I've gone leg press, but also glutes work as well. Now we're back to hamstring. So this being my, you wouldn't say hamstring focused day. Well, it probably is. There's more work leaning towards the hamstrings than the quads for sure, and the glutes as well. So you would say this is a hamstring dominant day, but not exclusively. So I'm gonna get some extra volume in, 2 sets here of the lying hamstring curl after those stiff-legged deadlifts. So lying hamstring curl on this day, seated hamstring curl on the other day, just for a little bit of variety. There is a little bit of research out surrounding the seated being a better variation as far as targeting the hamstring goes, but they're both good, they both work, and variation sometimes really worthwhile. So I do the lying hamstring curl as well. In that same bit of research, or a particular study which compared seated to lying, they also noted that the lying hamstring curl was better for the sartorius. So that is one of the muscles sort of running through the inner thigh, groin kind of area. So pretty aesthetic, cool looking muscle. So that's an added benefit of this one here. Not too much to be said for lying hamstring curl. It's pretty hard to bungle up this one if you've seen it done before. You essentially want to set that ankle pad down here behind your ankle. You want to set the setting down as far as you can manage. If you have no injuries or anything like that, it would be all the way to the bottom. If you have some sort of injury that limits that, then you just choose the height for you. We go heels to butt, controlling the way down, gentle tap, heels to butt. Really focus on lifting with your hamstring. What I also do on this hamstring variations is at the end of the set, when I can no longer get that pad all the way to my butt, I'll do half reps to kind of squeeze that little bit of extra work out of me and get that little bit closer to failure. Because movements or muscles like this or machines like this as well, it's much harder to get it all the way to your butt than it is to do the bottom portion. So if I, go all the way to the butt and then completely stop after that, it's not bad. It would mean you're pretty close to failure, but potentially doing some of those lengthened reps gets us that little bit closer to failure and gets us that slightly better stimulus potentially. So it's all potentially. I like it. It makes me feel as if my hamstrings have worked harder, perceivably, so I do it. Don't have to worry too much other than that. That's what I do. All right, let's get 2 sets in here. Let's crush it. I only counted 9. 12?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. All right, next up we have the machine adduction. So the adductor muscles. So we've got the quads that are running here, which we've already done exercise for, hamstrings, glutes, they've all worked. There's a component of muscles that kind of run through your inner thigh or groin called the adductors, and that's what this machine is going to be targeting. So this machine does both adduction and abduction, so you can do 2 functions with this machine. For us, we're doing the adduction component, so we flip these pads around so they face outside, foot on the pedal like such. There's a handle over here I'll crank as far as my flexibility will allow, lean back, drive the knees inward, control out, drive the knees inward. So on this particular movement, we want to make sure we are leaned back on the pad. We probably don't want to lean over, just for the pure fact that the adductor muscles will potentially be a little bit more stretched out if we lean back. Okay, 2 sets here, and then we're moving on. You want to give me some words of encouragement? What?
Lean back.
Yep.
Feet on the ground.
Yep.
Things like that side.
Yep.
And then you start.
Well done. All right, I'm going to crush this set. Yes, I did it. Ouch. Yeah, that hurt, but in a good way. 15. That was good. Do you know what I got last week? All right. Next up, we're doing the leg press calf raise. So I'm choosing the leg press calf raise just because of general fatigue. So what I have been doing on this day up until now is a Smith machine calf raise. But with all the exercises I've done up until now, a lot of fatigue accumulating. This one here, I can sit, use my calves, but not have a bar on me, which might just help reduce fatigue a little bit and allow me to target the muscle I want to a little bit better. So for 1 second. So for the leg press calf raise, we'll put half of our foot on, we'll push up a touch, then we'll let our heel sink underneath, raise onto the toes, stretch, raise onto the toes. That's good? All right. Now, when doing this one, again, the fact that I don't have to have a weight on me means I can really challenge my calves without having too much extra fatigue come along with that. So that's a good thing in a lot of circumstances, especially with all the work we've done up until now. We are going to do 4 sets. My headphones. 4 sets, 10 to 20 reps. And we've got abs after that. Let's give it some. I'm not started yet. Good counting. I've got to shuffle my feet, coach. Ow! Thank you. Ready? Wait, not ready. That was 1, 2. Got to shuffle my feet. Thanks, coach. All right, next up we have the GHD sit-up. This is my abdominal exercise for this day. So I think this exercise is actually really, really effective, and I do it for a couple of reasons. So being that we're trying to train our abdominals, we have this curve of the GHD that allows me to essentially stretch out my abs and then contract. Now, if we were to do a sit-up on the ground, a lot of that can be hip flexion, so it can just be like hip flexion as well as abs, but I want to make this initiated and finished by the abs, right? So using the pad here, I'm going to open up over the pad, and that is stretching my abs out, and then I'm going to sit up like such, trying to initiate the movement by moving my spine and stretching my abs, not just hip flexion. So if I was hip flexion, I'd just be like that, and it's just coming from here. I want it to be opening up over this pad here and contracting, open up, contracting. And that's why this is really effective in my mind. We will do 4 sets, and I've got to go get a dumbbell because I'm weighting these days. Last exercise. Okay. Sure, coach. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, what about this music? Do you like this? Bit of screamo.
All right, that's a wrap on the workout, guys. So a goodie, hit that deadlift for 7. So pretty proud and happy with that. But yeah, we're accumulating a lot of fatigue on these movements. This is at the end of the week, so there might be some merit to switch it out just for a period of time. Calm down. She's not gone forever, I don't think. But yeah, maybe instead of doing some sort of stiff-legged deadlift, I'm thinking about potentially doing a stiff-legged deadlift or RDL on the belt squat. I haven't minded that before. A good morning, something just to kind of give the deadlift a break, give that kind of fatigue that I have overall a bit of a break. So then, yeah, maybe a couple months in the future, I can slot it back in, feel a little bit better about it. I think, yeah, that there is, you know, a argument to be made for it being just super fatiguing. But again, in the time that I've done it, I like it, I enjoy it, I try hard at it, and I like seeing it get stronger, and you know, building those numbers is fun to me as well. But the numbers are only representative of the main goal, which is muscle growth. So maybe, yeah, just sub it out for a bit, bring it back into the future, see if I can sustain that, whatever it might be. But yeah, and then the split squats, that's brutal as well. So there's some challenges to this workout. And yeah, then you move on to something like leg press and you go, well, leg press feels very effective for my quads. It's hard, but it's not the same kind of hard as like a deadlift or a free weight movement like a split squat. So that is where you think, well, the stimulus that we get from the leg press for the quads and the fatigue cost is potentially a better ratio like that. And maybe we can find something better than the deadlift. Maybe that's a thought process. I can sit down over the weekend and kind of check in with that and see what I reckon. Basically, see what I could fit there. See if it makes sense to change, or maybe there won't be change that's worth it. Maybe I'll start doing something else and it just won't. What do the kids say? Hit the same? Yeah, something like that. All right, let me stop talking shit at you. Remember, stay consistent. That's the important thing. Just keep nailing things time after time. Set yourself up so you can be consistent. So if something's unsustainable, make it sustainable. Start small, build habits, build on top of those habits, and then crush. All right. As always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan signing off.